Good afternoon. It's Miss Kathleen, and I am going to tell you the long story about Joseph. Joseph was a member of the great family started by Abraham and Sarah, just as you are members of the great family. This story is so long that in adult Bible study, they call it a novel. A novel's kind of like a chapter book, right? Well, here's how the story goes. Oh, but before we tell it, have to get ready. I need to remember to take deep breaths, and I wish you would too. Remember the singing bowl. I've got it again. Some people can go around and make a nice sound. I can't do that, so I'll hit it. So the great family continued. Remember, Abraham and Sarah had Isaac, and Isaac and Rebekah had Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. There they are. We're not going to name all of them, but you need to know the oldest son was named Reuben, and the two youngest sons, who were his favorites, were Benjamin and Joseph. Joseph was the very youngest son, and Jacob loved him the best. And so Jacob gave Joseph a coat, a long sleeve coat with many colors. I have a picture of it here, what one artist thinks that it looked like. And you can see all of the brothers over here, and they are very jealous of Joseph and his coat with many colors. And the father Jacob there is giving it to Joseph, and he loves Joseph the best. Well, Joseph was a dreamer. He had amazing dreams, and one of the dreams he had was he and his brothers were all gathering bunches of wheat, and each brother had a bunch of wheat, and all of their bunches of wheat bowed down to Joseph's bunch of wheat. The brothers were angry when they heard that. They thought Joseph was putting himself above all of them. And then Joseph had another dream. It was a sun and a moon and 11 stars all bowing down to him. And the brothers were even more angry. That meant their father and their mother and all of them were bowing down to Joseph. They just didn't like that at all. And so one day they were out in the fields. They were taking care of goats and sheep. And Jacob sent Joseph to see how the brothers were doing. And the brothers knew that Joseph was coming, and they started to make a plan. They were going to kill Joseph and take his coat. But the oldest brother, Reuben, said, "No, don't do that. Let's just throw him in this pit, and we can kill a goat and put some blood on his coat, and they'll think he's dead." Reuben had it in his mind that he would come back and get Joseph later. But the brothers had other ideas. And so along came a caravan of traders. What's a caravan? It's a big procession of traders with animals, with camels, and they were taking spices and exotic perfumes to Egypt. And Joseph was sold to them as a slave for 20 pieces of silver. And so that's what makes you a slave, if somebody sells you for money. And Joseph was taken into Egypt. Can you see the symbols of Egypt there? There's some pyramids and a sphinx. Joseph was in Egypt, and he was sold to a man named Potiphar. And Potiphar's wife had Joseph put in prison. And when Joseph was in prison, he interpreted the dreams of some of the Pharaoh's servants. There was a baker, and there was a cupbearer, and they had dreams, and Joseph told them what their dreams meant, and the dreams came true. Later, when the servants of the Pharaoh got out of prison, the Pharaoh was having really strange dreams, and they said, "We know someone who can tell you what those dreams mean." And that someone was Joseph. And so Pharaoh got Joseph out of prison and started telling Joseph about these strange dreams. There were 7 fat cows, and there were 7 skinny cows. And the skinny cows, can you see them there? They ate the fat cows, but they didn't get any fatter. And then there were 7 fat ears of corn and 7 skinny ears of corn. And Joseph thought about this dream, and he said to Pharaoh, in this land, there are going to be 7 years of plenty. There will be lots of food for everybody. But then there will be 7 years of famine where the grain will not grow and the cows will not get big. And so I suggest, Pharaoh, that in the 7 years of plenty, when there's enough for everyone, you should store up and save some food for the years when there will not be enough. And so Pharaoh liked this idea, and he made Joseph the person in charge of saving up the food. And then when the years of famine came, people came from far and near to get food from Egypt. And one of the families that came was Jacob and all of his sons. They did not recognize Joseph, who was giving out the food, but Joseph knew who they were. And when they finally recognized Joseph, they were afraid. They bowed down before him, and he gave them food, but they were afraid he would not forgive them. But Joseph said, God had a plan to bring us together, and I forgive you. And so Joseph gave his family food, and that's how all the great family ended up in Egypt, and they later became slaves from the mean Pharaoh. Here's a picture of Joseph hugging his father Jacob and all of his brothers in the background. So that is the long story of Joseph and all of his brothers. And maybe you've seen that movie, The Prince of Egypt, that tells this story. But this story is in the Bible, the way I told it. I did leave out some little parts of it, but you'll learn some of that later. So I hope that when you think about the story of Joseph, you'll think about what your favorite part is. I wonder if you've had dreams that you didn't understand. I wonder if you've ever felt jealous of your brothers or sisters or of someone else in your family. I wonder if you're able to forgive people in your family when they make you feel bad. I wonder what the most important part of this story is. I hope maybe you draw a picture of that this week, and that maybe you can send it in to me, or have your parents take a picture of you holding up your picture, and we can maybe share it with some other people in the congregation. So let's say a prayer before we close the class, and then I will see you next week. God, you know we're sometimes worried as we stay home and we can't see our friends. We're worried about school and how we're going to learn this year, but even now, we know we're not alone. Love surrounds us like warm blankets. Hope is still there, even when we can't always see it. And everywhere we look, there are many people to help us. May our hearts be filled with peace instead of worry. May our hearts be filled with hope instead of being afraid. May our hearts be filled with thankfulness instead of loneliness. May we hold tight to each other, believing that even when it's hard, it will get better. May angels watch over us as we sleep, and may we rest in peace and hope. Amen. See you next week.